This is VOCM Open Line. Call 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626. The views and opinions of this program are not necessarily those of this station. The biggest conversation in Newfoundland and Labrador starts now. Here's VOCM Open Line host Paddy Daly.
Well, all right, and good morning to you. Thank you so much for tuning into the program. It's Friday, December the 5th. This is Open Line. I'm your host, Paddy Daly. David Williams, he's producing the Come On With It edition. So, if you're in the St. John's metro region, the number to dial to get in the queue and on the air is 709-273-5211. Elsewhere, toll-free long distance, 1-888-590-VOCM, which is 8626. So let's check in on a couple of local Olympians no less. Liam Hickey, of course, multi-sport athlete, played basketball and sledge hockey for Canada. He just recorded his 100th assist playing for his country, assistant captain, of course, of Team Canada. Liam is a beauty, great family, and congratulations to Liam. And I really appreciate the McLaughlin family sending me along an update. We mentioned the fact that O'Donnell High School volleyball player Fallon McLaughlin playing for Team Canada at the Deaf Olympics. So this is a 100-year-old event, and Team Canada did pretty well. Actually, historic finish. So Fallon and Team Canada finished 7th in the world in Tokyo at the 2025 Deaf Olympics, the highest ranking to date for Canada's women's volleyball team at this particular event. So now she gets a chance to train, qualify, compete for Canada at the 2029 Deaf Olympics, this time in Athens, Greece. So congratulations to Fallon McLaughlin and Team Canada, 7th in the world. Pretty good result. All right. So today, for soccer fans, of course, we all know that Canada, the United States, and Mexico will be hosting the next World Cup of soccer. So the FIFA World Cup pool draw is today at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. All right, so we'll get a chance to know who we're up against in our pool play. But obviously, the leaders of both, or all, Canada, Mexico, and the United States will be on stage for the 2-hour event. We're told that it's very unlikely there'll be any trade-related talk between Prime Minister Carney and President Trump, which is unfortunate, but you just hear some of the rhetoric coming around the CUSMA trade deal. So, number one, there's thoughts from the Americans that they're just going to let it die, let it expire, walk away. Yesterday, the president was talking about that exact thing, calling whoever dealt with that particular most recent negotiations as stupid. All right, well, he was the president who negotiated the deal and eventually signed off on the deal, calling one of the best deals of all time. And now it looks like it might indeed be going by the wayside. Potential bilateral agreements between the States and Mexico, the States and us and Mexico. Just enough to throw the North American economy into a bit more chaos, and it's already chaotic to say the very least. Look, as you've heard me admit countless times, we have tons of domestic issues here in this country, financially, societally, and otherwise. Of course we do. And as much as absolute fact, President Joe Biden looked very unwell last going off. I don't know why it seems to be unfair in many corners of Trump supporters to point out the patently obvious. He looks clearly unwell. And now to try to rely on a once extremely reliable partner is no longer there. It's just a crying shame as to find ourselves where we are. And anyway, you want to talk about any of that kind of stuff, we can do it. And of course, a lot of the trade war and the consequential tariffs, all based on national security and drugs. Yeah, sure it is. All right. So, food prices. Yesterday we talked about Canada's food price report, and it's a bleak picture into 2026. They talk about the potential for food prices to increase 4 to 6%, 7% in the world of beef. So, shrinking cattle sizes and a variety of things regarding supply chain and fire and floods and droughts and insects, which is a big contributing factor to the price of groceries. Of course it is. So, the question being asked by many people in my email, and hopefully on the telephone today, will be, what can be done about it? It's a pretty good question. So we do know in the world of the big grocery retailers, the profits made on groceries is a pretty thin margin. So they've got financial services and clothes and pharmaceuticals and a variety of goods that they sell that make up a whopping big portion of their profits. But yes, groceries, what about it? It's remarkable to me that we've got something established called the Competition Bureau in this country. They produced a report in 2023 and zero action has been taken on it. And it pointed out some very clear issues inside the world of grocery retail. Basically, it's the lack of competition. 80% of the market is dominated by 5 companies. And the three giants here in this country, Loblaw, Sobeys, Metro, add Walmart and Costco, and there's the world of grocery retailer. So they talk about a variety of things, and government has the ability to deal with these things. Because people say, what can government do? Good question. Not only the domination by the high concentration of power inside the five big ones, it's very restrictive. They've got a bunch of these covenants in leases. Basically says that in a certain proximity to their store, they are allowed to block competitors for opening nearby because of real estate covenants. The impact on consumers is obvious. You know, it's the lack of innovation, it's the lack of competition, and consequently higher food prices. So they talked about, and this is a 2025 June report, talk about releasing guidance for retailers inside of these restrictive practices. And they go on to say that they continue to actively investigate, but what's changing? Nothing. You know, so the federal government, we do know that the big corporations have, and they wield a ton of power on Parliament Hill. But for political victory, I mean, what's the choice here? They do what they think they need to do to keep corporate Canada happy, which are X number of voters, or they put forward some actual pragmatic policy to help everybody else, which is X time 1,000 voters. So yeah, fueling the coffers for your political campaigns, of course, important to politicians. Their number one goal in life is to get elected, and their second goal in life is to get re-elected. But all the while, all the voters who really should, in essence, hold the vast majority of power, we're kind of left on the outside looking in, wondering where's our scraps. So the Competition Bureau puts forward a lot of real pragmatic recommendations to make our grocery prices cheaper by increasing competition. Now, does that mean that we're going to see some dramatic drop in the price of groceries? Probably not. But as I heard Russell speaking with someone on the show this morning, is, you know, on the outside edges of the grocery store is where a lot of the stuff that we normally buy and the best stuff and the most expensive stuff lives. Then in the center of the store, some of the staples, notably canned goods, is going to see a lot more activity. When you do the produce and the meat section into the freezer, cooler area, you know, it's always busy. And in the middle aisles, maybe not so much. But it's going to get busier into the future. So you ask, what can the government do? The government can do plenty. All right, let's keep going. The story regarding court closures is a big deal. I'm not sure how much attention it's getting in your world unless you have something in front of the courts. And of course, we're not talking about criminal courts. We're talking about contravention issues and traffic fines and small claims court. But that's important. Let's just put it out there. So, look, the role of the official opposition is crucial. And we really rely on the opposition to do an effective job to hold government to account. At the same time, it's fair to point out that it's kind of difficult to take some of the criticisms at this moment in time aimed at the current PC government from the Liberal opposition. Why? Because they were in power a long time. So I get the role, I understand the role, I understand the importance of it, but things that have been growing for years and years and years and years are coming home to roost, including the fact that we've got not enough people working in the court system, whether it be police officers, crown prosecutors, sheriff's officers, other support staff, and as a result, we've seen this huge shift in provincial court operations. So the minister currently responsible, Helen Conway-Ottenheimer, has struck a new working group. Okay. There was already a working group struck in the past. And at the same time, we talk about judges, retired or otherwise, lawyers and others in the system. But what is not included in this working group are people who actually work on the so-called front lines. Let's put some of them in, whether they be actively serving and or recently retired, because their perspective is key. So let's include them. So I get the criticism coming from the current Liberal opposition, but come on. These are not new concerns. People have been raising the red flag about the number of sheriff's officers and other support staff in the court system for years. It's the exact same conversation when we talk about access to primary care. The conversation regarding the number of doctors working in practice with full patient rosters is not a new development. It's been talked about and heard for years. Same thing can be said for teachers and other support staff in the K-12 system. These are not overnight developments. I've been sitting in this chair for a long time, and we've been talking about that since the day I first started on this show. These are not new items or issues. So yes, I welcome opposition commentary and questions, whether it be for the NDP or the Liberals, but let's not pretend that these things just happened, because they didn't. So let's get down to the brass tacks. And one thing would also be quite helpful coming from opposition voices, and I'm not trying to come down hard on the Liberals specifically here this morning, but these things have been bubbling and percolating for a long, long time. So in addition to the criticism and questions for the current PC government, fair enough. But let's just do ourselves a favor here. Alongside of your criticisms, can you please put forward some solutions? And that would have been the exact same case when the PCs were the opposition. And it remains the case with the Liberals now the opposition and the NDP. Solutions required on top of criticism. Criticizing is easy. We can all do it, no matter what we're talking about. Politically, societally, financially, economically, in our relationships, criticisms come easy. They drip off the tip of our tongue like it's nobody's business. The hard part is coming up with proposed solutions. Any sort of remedies. So I get it. We can hear opposition voices federally, provincially, municipally. But boy, oh boy, what we're short on is some actual pragmatic solutions. Like when we talked about food prices, the Competition Bureau. Let's take some recommendations and implement them based on years of research, hard work, and that real quiet grunt work. Because that's no longer politics. Politics is all about sound bites and nonsense. Right? Let's make politics boring again. Get to work, find some solutions, and get down to business. I'm so sick and tired of the soundbite politics these days. It's pathetic. Most of it is juvenile, and this is not just a provincial or a federal or North American or the developed world. It's everything. That's all we get. It's performative theater. Solutions? Pfft. Solutions be damned. If I can get my whimsical, nonsensical, juvenile, embarrassing soundbite in the news, good enough for me. Yeah, well, it's not good enough for the rest of us. You want to talk about it? Let's do it. All right. That was a bit of a rant. Okay. Public sector. We do know that the reliance on job growth in this country has been pretty much reliant on public sector growth. In Atlantic Canada, some 30% of people employed work for the government. Private sector investment flat. Okay, so the feds, we know in the most recent budget, they were talking about eliminating some 40,000 positions. Now they've offered early retirement package information to some 68,000 public servants. No action required at this time. Peak was reached in the 23-24 fiscal year, 368,000 people working for the federal government. Okay. Right-sizing things and making sure we have a manageable number of people working for the federal government that allows for all the services to be provided in hopefully a timely and efficient manner. One of the problems is going to be that some of these positions won't be backfilled and we'll lose jobs through attrition. No one's cheering for a job loss, but we have too many people working for the public sector in this province and right across the country. The next growing problem will be how some of those services are provided. And you know full well that there's already a reliance on artificial intelligence, and that's going to only grow into the future. We are quickly finding out that AI is providing as much incorrect information as correct information. So we need legislation. We need legislation to be brought forward here provincially and federally as to the usage of artificial intelligence, because it's completely and wholly unreliable. It's fun, and you can produce a quirky little video very quickly in the palm of your hand, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be effective in helping with governance. So where's that coming from? And look, even in the world of GDP growth, I mean, the AI investment dollar is massive. And in the most recent 12 months worth of GDP growth in the United States, half of it reliant on artificial intelligence investment. It's a bubble that's just waiting to burst on the financial scene, and it is not helpful to me and you, people relying on services, relying on corporations as the subservience that we have become. So, man, I don't know why we don't talk about it. I don't know why we don't get more calls on AI, because as much as you might not care about it at this moment in time, most everything that you see and touch and feel and hear in the right today and into the future is going to be in part or in full generated by artificial intelligence. So we should get that conversation out there if you're so inclined, and let's do it. All right, so some questions being asked to Defence Minister David McGuinty about defence spending. And he says, no problem. So we do know Premier Wakem, when meeting with the Prime Minister, put forward some defence spending concerns regarding companies in this province to get in on the action as we move towards 2% of GDP in the next 3 years, or ish, all the way to 5% of GDP, which is going to be at minimum $150 billion a year on defence. We are positioned and poised, whether it be in the tech sector, the innovation sector, and yes, even that bull arm or other facilities where we can and we should get our slice of the pie, because we have been left behind forever and a day on that front. So good on the Premier for making that a priority. But some of those other priorities, you want to get into it, the Beta Nords, the critical minerals, the Upper Churchill, all of these things are certainly open for discussion right here on this program. The Auditor General, another report yesterday. All right. So this is looking at performance audits all the way back 2018 through 2022. About a quarter of all recommendations have not been implemented. Just in the report yesterday, 15 recommendations have not been implemented. Half of them are over 5 years old. All right, so these are examinations into Nalcor Energy, which is now, of course, Newfoundland Labrador Hydro, through the Justice Department, through the Tourism Department, and otherwise. When the government reads the reports, and very quick to say, we appreciate the hard work of the Auditor General, in this case Denise Hanrahan and her team, and we understand the recommendations that will move towards implementation. Spare us. I almost cursed. Spare us. The recommendations are based on careful evaluation, not with a partisan bias, but with a pragmatics lens. So, if the work has been done, and we're going to applaud the work done by Denise Hanrahan and Auditor Generals into the past, let's do better on implementing recommendations. They are only intended to not knock governments down, but to make things better. So yet another report from Denise Hanrahan about the lack of implementation. And as usual, Denise Hanrahan knows that she's more than welcome to join us on the program. All right, I'm a bit wound up here today. More positive note before we get to the break and come back to speak with you. Bravo to the good folks at VOCM Cares for not only the good work they do throughout the year, but this fundraising effort with their 50-50 and the two secondary prizes of a one-year lease of a CRV, thanks to Seal Honda, a stay-and-play between the Avalon Mall and the Capitol Hotel, and of course the 50-50 jackpot. When I got to work yesterday, it was around $70,000, I think, and it ended up last night at the deadline of over $240,000. So that's the record fundraising effort for VOCM Cares and their annual 50-50. Congratulations to all of the folks who bought a ticket. You're helping the community. And for the winners, bravo. The holiday season just got a little bit merrier and brighter for those three winners. I didn't jot down their names. I probably should have, but good on everyone who helps support VOCM Cares. We're on Twitter. We're VOCM Open Line. Follow us there. Email address is openline@vocm.com. Today is indeed Come On With It Friday, so when we take this break, get in the queue, speak with Dave. We'll speak to you right after this. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go. Line number one. James, you're on the air.
Good morning, Paddy. How are you, sir?
Great today. You?
Not too bad, not too bad. I basically heard your little bit of your preamble there this morning. I just caught the very last bit of it talking about how they're not opening the house until after, I guess, the start of the new year. And I mentioned to Dave, I'm just giving you an example now. I'm just down here now, parked in front of the Chespenny Center of Hope, down in front of the Salvation Army. And I'd love to see if Tony Wakeham now, or Andrew Fury, or any of them would like to stand up in this lineup with these people that are out here now shivering cold just to get a hamper. I think it's absolutely friggin' ridiculous that the state of this place got to depend on a couple of idiots that don't know how to friggin' get their stuff managed to get everything back on track so that we're not all suffering. Because another thing, now they're talking about the rise of food again now next year. It's unbelievable. Right? Like, it's so out of control. It's like they cannot, it's almost like they don't know where to go to from here. It's like they don't have any direction. Or is that, like, it's just a bigger plan in place for the next step of what they're going to friggin', bomb us with? You know what I mean?
Yeah, sort of. Some conversations, I think, are a national stage conversation, and some things are absolutely provincial scales. In the world of groceries, it is really a federal conversation here. I don't know what provincial governments can really do. I mean, I suppose there are some options available, which I talk about every now and then, is, not only expanding agricultural opportunities to grow more food closer to where people live, whether that be traditional forms of farming or hydroponics or whatever it is, but geography also plays a role in it. I did mention the competition Competition Bureau work back in 2023, 2025, recommendations made that could increase competition, consequently could help control prices, but no actions taken. And some of those are required via federal legislation. You know, the provincial lever that I think we can pull is in the agricultural sector, which is tricky business. We just had a terrible summer. It was nice if you were a golfer, terrible if you were a farmer. You know, the drought conditions and the prolonged heat, you know, we didn't even get a second round of hay from any farmers. So, you know, the whole thought in general terms of what are politicians actually actively doing to make my life easier and more affordable is an excellent question.
Yeah, and basically, like, I mean, I just don't want to keep on going around in circles or anything talking about it, but it just seems to me like it's such a friggin' sin. Like, to watch all these friggin' people going in there now. Like, I mean, decent cars, decent, you know, people, they're not, you know, they're not bums or nothing. And they're just going into this place, and it tears their heart on me. Like, to see these friggin' poor people going in there with their children and all this friggin' old stuff, and here they just, you know, just floating around. Oh, let's play Great Foggy Day for Tony Wakeham up in Ottawa. Like, who cares, buddy? Like, let's get this friggin' thing back on the rails. Jeez, like, it's unreal. It's unreal. And, like, sorry for going off my head like this, but I mean, I'm just one of every Newfoundlander right here now that would love to see everything just go right back to reset and try to get everything back on track. Like, I know there's, like, I don't even know where to go with it from there, because it's almost like you're trying to get the truth out of them. You're trying to get more information out of them. It's almost like they're dragging their heels with everything. And I just don't know. It's unbelievable.
Cost of living pressures have increased. There's a couple of areas where they've come back to earth a little bit, like cell phone packages, what have you. Insurance premiums are up. Mortgage rates have come down somewhat based on interest rate relief. But, you know, it's hard to know how we put the toothpaste back in the tube here, because the number of people that are new to relying on food banks is extraordinary. More than a couple of million Canadians have a full reliance on food banks. And, you know, they're talking about people who are coming in the door who actually work for a living, 40 hours a week.
Yep.
You know, they're working, but now they're the working poor.
Yep.
And how that gets reversed is anybody's guess. And I wish I had more solutions. You know, insofar as people on fixed incomes, I think it's just patently clear that things like qualification for the guaranteed income supplement, it needs to be raised. It's as simple as that. Qualification for the seniors benefit needs to be raised, because $29,000 in 2018 is not the same purchasing power as $29,000 in 2025. So there's a few things like that I think we can see addressed, but it's slow moving kind of stuff. And look, let's be real. There's tons of money in St. John's. If we're just talking about the capital city, because I know that's where you're calling from, there's tons of money around here. But the problem is that the number of people in the bottom bracket seems to be growing. The middle class is kind of eroded. You've got a bunch of people doing really, really, really well, and a much smaller portion of people doing terribly. But what we do to support those people, social assistance hasn't changed in years. The employment stabilization program hasn't grown. We're doing a piss poor job in keeping people housed. We're doing a terrible job to get people educated in the big scheme of things. So we start with some of the basics, and you can probably, you know, some of the problem there, James, and I'll get your thoughts on this, is things that have long-term intended goals, they don't get a lot of headlines. Things that have short-term goals and photo opportunities and big checks being presented, that gets the headline. Like, even if you just started the K-12 system, and if we did great in pre-K, then in 10 years, whoever was the person who really put forward the effort to make sure we did the best we could in primary school, we'd see the results in 10 years, but they're gone by then. So they don't get to share the glory, which is not what it's supposed to be about. If you're just in it for the glory, then shag you. Right? We need some long-term, easy-to-measure vision here. Let's get it right in education, which takes care of a lot of it. And I'm kind of jumping around here this morning because I'm wound up tight, but I'll give you the floor for final thoughts.
No, my buddy, I'm just like I said, it's unbelievable that in the state of everything that's going on now, we're going to bump the food up again next year. Like, boys, like, you don't realize, like, they just got to see this for themselves, unless they're just completely oblivious to it.
Yeah. Now, some of the forecasted increases in the grocery store, you know, in short-term relief insofar as government policy goes, I'm not so sure we can avoid it at this moment in time. But let's look at the level of competition out there. If there's 5 companies controlling 80% of the retail market in groceries, what do you think is going to happen? I mean,
Yep.
I'm no economist, but I'm pretty sure I understand supply, demand, and competition.
Yep. It's unreal, buddy.
James, I appreciate your call this morning. Thanks for doing it.
Yes. Thanks a lot, Paddy. Have a good weekend, buddy. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year to you and Dave as well.
You too, pal. Appreciate it, and the same to you and your family.
Thank you, buddy.
Okay, welcome. Bye-bye. Yeah, I mean, and like I've said many times in the past, people don't like it when I say it, but I mean, it is reality. For a lot of these big grocery retailers, the margins on groceries are pretty thin, and they always have been. That doesn't mean they're not making huge profits, because they are. And for some of these companies, record profits. But they've diversified their business, which kind of makes it a little bit misleading when we look at their profits. The amount of money they make on financial services and clothing and pharmacy is huge. The margin on groceries, not so much. But the whole supply chain has been compromised. I suppose I'll use the word in gentle terms. But anyway, let's see here. How are we doing on the Twitter box for VOCM Open Line? You know what to do. Email address is openline@vocm.com. Today's a great day to get on the show, just like a caller in the queue who wants to talk about Valentine Lake mining. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go. Line number 2. Caller, you're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Patty.
Good morning.
First-time caller. I'm nervous.
Oh, you take your time. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks. Valentine Lake. Stuff's going on in there now. Like there's a union in there. The security is in a union. There's hotel restaurants in a union, and they just recently got rid of the union for security. And the next on the chopping block is East Coast Catering. That's the words going around. They're bringing in another company from Montreal. The company is Garda. And East Coast Catering, apparently is going around, they're bringing in someone from Ontario. Garda is from Montreal, and Ontario is the other one. So we got places here in Newfoundland that can handle catering, and we got people that can handle security. So 12 people lost their jobs. Could have been up to 14 guards. That's what they were going to have. They lost their jobs in there because their contract was up, and they went with someone else. Now, I know they're allowed to do that, but it was wrong to me. Are you still there?
I'm just listening. I'm listening.
Okay, yeah. Okay. They're bringing in this new crew, and some of them don't even have experience at security in that. But that's fine. I mean, you can do a 4-hour course, which some of them up there has got a lot more experience than 4 hours, the course you can do. The fact that they're bringing in another mainland company when we got our own to take care of it all, I mean, that's 12 people there, 80-odd people probably, give or take a few, in East Coast Catering part. So how they found out that they were bringing in a new crew was someone come in and said, what do you are in another security company? And boys said, well, I don't know. They've seen it on Indeed. So 2 days, then the next day, they phoned their company, and they didn't know nothing about it. And the next day, they got a layoff come to them, every one of them. I don't think it's fair how they're getting rid of one company and putting another company in there. Just because of the union, when they're at the gold now, processing the gold, between 3 to 5 million comes out over that road not every day, but every so many days. They're nowhere into the pit yet, the pits that's going to do the gold. So, I think they're Scrooges, if you ask me. I mean, lay people off this time of the year just because they don't want the union in there, don't make sense. And I challenged the Newfoundland government and our premier. Chris Tibbs been told about it. Cleve Horsey been told about it. I don't know the rest of them that's in the East Coast Catering that's out towards St. John's and stuff like that. I don't know where the ministers are. But this stuff got to change. They can't be allowed to do this stuff. are right. Why get rid of some and bring in other people? Just because you're going to get rid of the union. It's not going to get rid of the union, because this only made it worse for the union, for all the rest of them. Because 9 chances out of 10, when something comes along their face, something is going to be signed. Which there's only the 2 unions in there right now. There may be Gizmore might be in there for a little bit, few crew. And here it is. These guys, they'll all go union, and these people come out and they got no jobs, and the other crowd will go union. So I don't know where to go from it, but I challenge the Newfoundland government to step in there now and resolve that issue right now, because they get laid off the 15th. That's their last date of hire.
It's a tricky one, isn't it? So the current Minister of Energy and Mines is Lloyd Parrott, the PC member for Terra Nova. You know, at this stage, when you've got the agreements in place between the government and, I think it's now owned by Equinox Gold, right? It used to be Marathon, and then it was bought by Calibre. Now I think it's owned by Equinox. Is that?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So with the agreements already signed in place to approve their lease and operations, I wonder what the authority is that the government would have to stop something in its tracks now, because in the world of industry, like mining, like the oil and gas business, like the work on the Churchill River, inside benefits agreements that the government will approve of in conjunction with your license and various other approvals and environmental assessments, there can be some protections for jobs put into the contracts. And, you know, contracts that will be impossible to break because it'll be directly linked to your license to produce. And Marathon should be an excellent business. I mean, what are they sitting on? At least 3 million proven and probable ounces of gold. Gold going at about...
I'd say more than that.
Well, yeah, I think the release number, same thing they do in the oil business, right? They say we're sitting on 500 million barrels of oil, and it turns out to be 3 or 4 times that. Same thing I would assume in the mining business. But let's just use 3 million ounces of gold, and they do the old crush and grind out at Marathon. Gold is selling, what, $4,200 an ounce? So there's a pretty good business to be had.
Yeah. But they're not even allowed to be hired anywhere in the mine itself right now, because they're labeled now as whatever you want to call it. Afraid that the union, they'll push for the union wherever they go. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Which that's still wrong. I mean, they got the right to go in there. I mean, we could look at it another way. Chris Tibbs' son is in there working. He come right out of high school and went in there. He's working in the lab. Now, that's fine. I got nothing against none of that, because he went through this certain program they got that allows people to go and get that, right?
Yep.
They can do the same thing with these guards. If they don't have no experience in something, they should hire them to go back into the field. They've been with them for 3 to 4 years in there, which is it's totally wrong. Like, I don't care what anyone says to me. It's totally wrong. And to do it this time of the year is unreal. And you got another fella in there. I've got to keep going, because you got a big shot in there going around with a yellow hat on. Now, if you're a big shot, you wear a white hat.
Generally, yeah, the white hats on construction projects, yeah.
He's going around, and if he don't like what you says or anything like that, you're fired. That's been proven in there this past month gone, actually, which no one knows probably who he is. And then, you know, you got to watch what you say. If you don't like the place in there or don't like what's going on in there, then you know what I mean? But they shouldn't be allowed to do that either.
It's fair enough.
Off the topic now altogether. But I challenge the Newfoundland government. I read some of the I don't know what Andrew Parsons wrote. I don't know if it's the contract as such or what it is, but in there, it's room that could be changed. If any problems should come up, two of them would have to go back and forth with each other. It's right there in it.
Okay, so the benefits agreement is probably 3-ish years old at this moment in time, even though first gold pour was just this year, if I remember correctly, and not that long ago. So we'll put this on the radar with Minister Parrott and see if we can't get some of his time, because we're due to speak with Lloyd Parrott here in the near future for a variety of reasons. I mean, his portfolio is one of the big revenue generators in government, period. So, you know, we had a call yesterday talking about the Beaver Brook mine, the Entomie mine, that is now closed, but they're sitting on a pretty valuable product as well. So So we'll pepper the minister with a variety of different mining-related questions, and we'll put this one at the top of the list. How's that?
Yeah, it sounds good to me. But, I mean, like I said, it's sad because it's drawing close to their end of their term, right? The 15th of December. I would like for them to get on the ball with this right away. So that's why I'm challenging all the ministers right across, or the MHAs right across Newfoundland, to get involved with this right now, and our premier. Because you phoned the MHAs right now, you only got one day, and they're filled up with all these meetings. They got no time to speak to no one. That's the problem.
We'll see if they can make time to speak with us, because we at least can say out loud on the show, if they refuse to speak with us, we can make that known too, which also speaks volumes. So let me dig into it, caller. I am going to go find the benefits agreement, because I'm pretty sure that was like 2021, 2022 when that was signed, and I don't recall all of the ins and outs of it, but I'll have a look for it. We'll invite Minister Parrott on the program, because there's lots to discuss inside his portfolio, and of course including Valentine Lake. Anything else you'd like to say while we have you?
No, that's it.
Appreciate your time.
So have a good Merry Christmas now to you. Happy New Year.
You too, pal. Take care.
Okay. Thanks.
Right.
Bye.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. And East Coast Catering, that was originally, Patrick O'Callaghan owned that company, right? Who just recently passed. Is it still locally owned? I don't know. Is it part of the Compass Group? Yeah, there you go. Boy, oh boy, how often does that pop up? You know, whether it be in healthcare or otherwise. And East Coast Catering is a massive operation. And I'm not so sure when it possibly changed hands, but anyway, let's see here. Let's get a break right on time. When we come back, the cost of food. Dave wants to talk about oil. Someone else wants to pick up on what the caller was laying down regarding Valentine Lake, and then whatever you want to talk about. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Oh, hold on. All right, let's keep going. Top of the board, line number 1. Good morning, Chris. You're on the air. Hi, Chris. Dave, we got a pot up there on line number 1. Good morning, Chris Howlett on line number 1. You're on the air. You're on hold. Let's go. Line number 3. Jason, you're on the air.
Yes, Patty. Did I hear it right yesterday on NC, whatever it is, BOCM News, that they went from 2020 to 2025, and you said that the price of food went up 18%?
Yep. Scheduled or forecasted to go up between 4% and 6% next year, 7% if we're talking about beef.
Why would they say next year? Why didn't you say next month?
Well, I guess over the course of a year. Yeah, because it wouldn't be on January 1st as there's an automatic 4 to 6% increase. Over the course of 2026, they look at it. It's the Canadian Food Price Report. So they're not saying January 1, everything's up 6%. They're saying over the course of the year, up to 6%, 7% on beef. So it'll be incremental increases, just like this year.
Okay, so at 2020, why couldn't they go back to 2019 and do 6 years? Because if you look at a can of wieners, 2019, it was 99 cents. Now you go to Walmart, it's $2.75 a can.
I saw them for $2.69 the other day. I was shocked. Yeah.
Yeah, so where are they getting 18%? Isn't that like a 150% markup?
Well, when they look at grocery stores, it would be all products in and then on an average, so a median increase as opposed to breaking down from Vienna sausages all the way through, you know, prime rib or any other grocery product. So that's an average number for inside the grocery store for food.
So that would be on all the food? Yeah,
and once again, it'd be an average of all grocery store items.
Okay, yeah, because I remember buying 2 chickens cost $10, and a couple of years ago it was $10 for a chicken, and right now it's over $22 for a chicken. So that's a 2,200% markup.
Meat proteins are way, way up. I mean, I can't remember the last time I had a steak. Well, now the barbecue season's kind of gone, so I don't generally eat much in the way of a steak over the course of the winter. But I did have a peek last weekend when I was in doing some grocery shopping on a Saturday. And a steak, and I'll just use round numbers, a steak that would have been $17 not too long ago is now $39. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, so you can't afford it.
Oh, I can't.
So if people can't afford it, what are they doing with it? Are they throwing it out? Because the price doesn't go down. When I was in the Dominion there the other day, and I was looking at some steaks, $35, $40 a steak,
yeah,
and it looked like they were already cooked.
Yeah, and some of it, of course, we see those Mexican and Australian meats on the shelves too. But it's a good point you make. Is that what happens if it's so expensive that very few people are buying? Is part of the issue here with the price of beef is that cattle sizes have shrunk. So there's fewer cattle producing these meat products. Consequently, that supply issue is also part of the rising prices. So I don't know if they throw it away, but how often do you go through the meat aisle and see a $2 off or enjoy tonight or one of those stickers where they know it's right up against its end of life quality and they're just trying to get rid of it? Yeah.
Yes, well, I've seen them taking it back in and repacking it and putting it back out again. And then they'll put dye into the hamburger meat, make it look very fresh and red, and then you crack it in the center and it looks like it's cooked.
Yeah, there's some quality concerns out there, that's for sure. And remember, it's not that long ago that there were some retailers taking a task because they were including the weight of the packaging in the weight of the product. So, and that's unfair. I shouldn't be paying X amount for your styrofoam packaging and your plastic costs. That's not part of the sticker. It can indeed be baked into overall prices I pay, but don't tell me that the weight is this, but it also includes all the packaging, because that's never how it once was, and it's actually against the law. There's rules regarding packaging in this country, and there's actually some packing issues at the federal level which does indeed contribute to costs. So there's a lot to consider inside a grocery store.
Well, what I got is that when they went in, and then if they got caught doing that, they were going to be fined over $15,000 or something, right? So now they're going to pay that fine. They'll pay it off right away. But who do you think is going to pay for it in the long run? They're just going to raise the prices and have the people pay for it. This is why the last couple of companies there was no fines put out.
Yeah,
if they did give them a fine, we're still going to pay for it.
I think it's fair to say that a lot of corporate penalties get indeed at some point passed along to their clients or consumers. It's the same thing when we talked about, this buy local, procure domestically kind of stuff. And grocery retailers in several instances were caught with mislabeling things, trying to take advantage of the quote-unquote patriotism that has seen a bit of a rebirth here in the country. So, yeah, it's, again, if corporate Canada is allowed to get away with stuff, they will. I mean, they just will continue to do so. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency caught the mislabeling bad deeds in several grocery stores. They have the ability to put forward fines, and they did not. So what do you think happened? The grocery retailers probably went, what do I care? I'll label it however I see fit.
That's right, yeah. And they're going to keep doing it anyway, and they ain't going to stop. It's all just greed, right? They just want their hands in your pocket.
They love a little reach around, yep. Oops, I shouldn't have said that out loud.
Yeah, well, okay, you have a Merry Christmas and have a good weekend.
Thanks, Jason. Same to you.
You too, bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Let's see if we got Chris on one now. Chris, you're on the air.
Sorry about that, Paddy Vaughan. Just as busy as you on the phone today.
I get it.
A reach around, geez, that was a good one. Paddy, I heard you talking this morning about the cost of food. And it cringes us to hear how much the grocery retailers are making and these quarterly profits. Imagine what we're paying extra compared to the rest of Canada and what the federal government is costing us. You know what I mean? Like, with Marine Atlantic, I guess, when you look at the capacity issues that they have there and the weather issues and so on and so forth, like, you imagine what's carried on to the consumer in Newfoundland.
Absolutely. I've seen some of the numbers revealed. You talk about a 200-kilometre stretch on mainland Canada versus the same 200-kilometre stretch if we're talking about coming from, just pick place, Montreal, Marine Atlantic into the west coast of the island. I think the numbers I saw you put forward was 2-kilometre stretch on the mainland versus here, it's about 4 times more.
Exactly. And not only that, though, like last month, we lost 41 truck days with stuff. Like, I had stuff that we picked up, say, for one major grocer, and it was on the dock over there 5 days with a truck and trailer. So you imagine the fresh produce that they have to throw out or have to sell. You can be sure if they lose money on the quality of their produce or their whatever it is, it's going to be passed on to the consumer, right? So it's, what we're losing in Newfoundland, I'd say, is a lot more than what the rest of Canada's losing.
Absolutely. And just so for context, Chris is in the trucking business. This is Chris Howard with Akita Equipment. So he's got hands-on experience here with the trucking issue.
Yes, exactly. So like I said, I just heard you talking about the cost of food this morning. Just a little, food for thought. Like, the federal government is not doing us any favors when it comes to Marine Atlantic. We need some more capacity, of course, and maybe we need a vessel that can operate in the, a little bit different weather patterns that we're having in the last 2 or 3 years. You know what I mean? Like, it's, this week alone, I think we lost another 3 or 4 days. So if you look at food that come out of California, you look at your grapes and stuff, it goes into Montreal, it goes on another trailer, comes to the ferry. So it went from California to Montreal in probably 3 days, but it's taken 9 days to get to Newfoundland. It's the mileage from California to Montreal would be double. But the quality of the food that we're getting at the end of the day is definitely deteriorated. And I'm not picking up for the retailer, but as the retailer looks at it, so now he's got a grape that's an inferior grape or an inferior beef or whatever it may be. So he's got to sell it at a loss. I'm sure he's not selling it as a loss, but you know what I'm saying? So yeah. They're losing money as well every day,
So what's the solution there? Is it, prioritising perishables that are on the dock in North Sydney, or what do you think can be done here? Because you're not going to be able to please everybody when it comes to booking and priorities at Marine Atlantic, but things that impact us all, like perishable goods sitting on the dock when maybe they could be given priority for getting on the vessel. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, right now they have the oddest priority system in the world. If I want to go in now and book, for the next 3 months, I can, and just say I'm booking it for diapers. It doesn't matter. So if I book up that ferry, I can book 2 sailings. So they sell 9 sailings a crossing. And, if you got the money to book it and you got the foresight to book it, that's fine and dandy. So when the boat is down for 3 days, so you look at 9, and there's 2 or 3 crossings a day. So what happens is when the boat do finally come back, the first thing that moves is whoever paid the double money to get on the ferry. So you could actually move, it could actually move 75 or 80 trucks. If you're down for 2 days, they could actually move 75 or 80 trucks that could have lumber on it. It could have anything on it. It might never have a perishable on it. So, like, the way they're doing stuff, yes, Marine Atlantic is capturing a big pile of money here, but it's not helping the people in Newfoundland or the consumer or the retailer for that matter. Yes, some retailers allow us to pay double, but still you can only buy 2, which, I can't pay double to drive from Truro to Moncton to get ahead of another fella, you know what I mean? So really, that should always be first come, first serve. Or they should look at it and say, hey, the groceries go and let the groceries go on, or let the live seafood go off the island. But no one should ever have to pay double. It should never. I can't pay double to pass you from Toronto to Montreal or whatever. It doesn't make sense. But there's definitely something that can be done there with regards to Marine Atlantic to save the consumers of Newfoundland money.
Very quickly before I let you go, because I think you're absolutely right on that front, is would truckers, if there was ever such a thing as the fixed link between Labrador and the island of Newfoundland, would that be an attractive option for people in the trucking business, given the additional distance to travel and fuel costs and harsh conditions? Would the truckers use it?
The conditions are not as harsh as they used to be. The problem is, Paddy, we've done it on a scattered time here when the weather's been down, and I have taken chances. The problem is you got that vast, terrain with no services. Yeah. Like, I can get a flat tire in Labrador. In St. John's, just say, for example, a flat tire might cost me $700 or $800. In Labrador, it could cost you $3,000. Mm-hmm. So, you're rolling the dice when you do it, you know what I mean? And like you said, there's still a bit of dirt road and stuff there, and you're adding a little bit more wear and tear to your trucks, but there's times that we've done it to get ahead of the 8 ball.
Chris, appreciate your time this morning. Thanks for doing it. See you around.
See you, brother. Have a good day.
You too, pal. Bye-bye. It's Chris Howard with Key to Equipment. Very quickly, on behalf of the folks out at the Ganders Lions Club, the annual Santa Claus Parade, hosted by the Lions Club and the town of Gander, takes place tomorrow at 6 p.m. The Rotary Club of Gander will be doing their annual Christmas food drive, so they'll be supporting 2 food banks in Gander. So the Rotary Club are going to walk around during the parade, accept non-perishable food items, monetary donation, cash or a cheque. If you write them a cheque, you can make it out to the Gander Rotary or to the Gander and Area Food Bank, or to the Salvation Army Food Bank. So big thanks to all hands involved. So the Santa Claus Parade tomorrow in Gander. Bring along a donation of a non-perishable or a few shekels. Let's get a break in. Don't go away. Welcome back. Let's go. Line number 4. Dave, you're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. How are you?
Not too bad, I suppose, you?
Coming around, boys. A nice day here today. We're getting some stormy weather, which I like, and getting some snow, and maybe some of that will stay, which would be great.
Miserable morning when I was driving to work here in town this morning. I know there's some schools closed in Central, Clarenville and otherwise, so yeah, it seems to be brightening up here in town, which is a welcome sight.
Yeah, we got a bit of what you would call actual winter weather, and I think that's normal. So anybody who doesn't like it, you don't like the normal weather. This is what we should be seeing at this time of the year. Anyway, my reason for calling this morning is a very simple one. I don't get why our Premier, Tony Wakeham, has to go to Ottawa and almost beg Ottawa to take the position finally that, maybe we should start using Canada first and when it comes to our energy supplies, our energy needs. We've been discussing electricity to a great degree, and I've really been researching that and the possibilities for it. Topic for another day, but let's talk about what is going on right now and what we're watching. I guess we're granting another reach around what's going on. It's been going on for a long, long time, and it's time it stopped. Quebec and Eastern Canada get about 37% of their crude oil needs from Western Canada. And of course, we know Quebec's stance on pipelines, and now Carney making the claim that, if we go with a pipeline system across her, we're going to have to go with a huge carbon capture project, which we all know who that benefits and who that's the best for, and it's not you and it's not me.
Who is it best for?
I think it's best for companies that are directly involved with Mr. Carney, or that he's been involved with in the past, or arm's length from others, such as Brookfield.
Brookfield's not involved in Pathways Alliance, and that's good for the oil companies. I mean, that's greenwashing oil. That's basically what it is. Carbon sequestration, every time they talk about it, it never works as effectively as they say, and it costs way more than they ever project into the future. So that Pathways Alliance, that was the Alberta government looking for support for that. I mean, they got federal injection of cash. That's exactly what they wanted. And the increase in the carbon industrial price, that was negotiated in. So Danielle Smith signed off on that.
Yeah, and I don't know, probably to their benefit or whatever the purpose may be for that. We see the results of it, but right now, I mean, let's look at the fact that what we see happening in Quebec East. I mean, 63% of the imports that we get here to use in Quebec East come from places like Nigeria, Saudi Arabia, and apparently it's because of basically contractual situations. It's not that this couldn't be changed. We got projects like Bay du Nord and others that could be supplementing or probably taking the full complement of what's going to be required to offset that. But I mean, the ones that are basically most benefiting from that situation are the people that are involved directly with these huge contracts of import and handling of it. I think for one part of it, we need a better refinery in Newfoundland. We need to start refining our own oil, and maybe our Hibernia oil should be refined here in a new capacity as well. I don't know how much of that is contractual or how much you could actually get away from, but
it's all
if you're taking your crude source from as far away as we are, it got to come down to a higher price for the consumer on the end of it. I mean, the end price of that stuff with all the handling and the transportation is huge.
Okay, let's dig into that a little bit, because it's interesting. Number one, people always try to tell me that the federal government imports oil. The federal government does not import oil. The federal government doesn't buy oil for refineries to refine into end products. So let's get that out of the way. And interestingly, if you ask Irving why they import so much Saudi Arabian oil, it's cheaper. It's cheaper to transport that oil by tanker from the Middle East than it is to move it through a pipeline in Canada. That's amazing.
Yeah, and there's a reason that shouldn't happen, too. Maybe we should use other methods, like even for moving that oil or whatever the case may be. There's got to be the ability to use a source of raw material. I mean, look at the amount of gas, the LNG, that we aren't doing anything with. We've watched all these contracts take place worldwide, but we're not doing that. Well, it's a marketable product, and I don't think that we're anywhere close to a net zero world with zero emissions and effective electrical vehicles and all that. Maybe that will come in the future, but it ain't here now. The rest of the world is benefiting from being actively involved in these huge industries. I mean, they're huge employers. I mean, they're great royalties for the country. I think it's time that we told people like the Irvings and those else, I mean, those monies that they're making aren't coming back to your pockets nor mine. And we're paying the bulk of a very cushy contractual situation for somebody when, as you mentioned, the federal government does not buy oil. The federal government does not refine oil, and that is 100% the truth. But I think what they got to do, the federal government and provincial government got to take the stance to say, look, we're going to start utilizing Canadian resources, so be it if it means that we got to build new refineries. A lot of employment in that too. So I don't see that as a downside.
Who's we though? Who are you suggesting should build refineries? Governments?
No, not at all. I don't think government belongs in any way, shape, or form involved with business.
Absolutely not. Certainly not in oil refineries. So, I mean, even though, for all intents and purposes, the provincial government was pretty intimately involved in Come By Chance. And there's a variety of things there. I know we're not talking about that refinery in particular. But when the oil business is pretty tricky stuff. So when you have the CNLOPB land sales, so a company, let's just pick one, ExxonMobil, BP, whoever, they purchase it, and that's a commitment for exploration dollars. And then they start producing after they negotiate an agreement with the provincial government and the CNLOPB framework agreements. Then they produce it. At that point, it's their oil. I mean, as much as we like to think it's ours, once there's a production license granted, production benefits negotiated, at that point, it's up to them what they do with the oil. So if out at Hibernia or out at Hebron or wherever, the companies that are producing, they choose where to send it. So unless there was something like, as part of the contractual arrangement, same thing with like nickel coming from Labrador to be processed at Long Harbour, is unless you bake that into the contract, it's always going to be up to the company where they send it. There's only like 16 oil refineries in Canada. That's it. And there's only, I think, 4 provinces that have an oil refinery. So, I mean, unless the government starts getting in the business of dictating to these companies about building refineries, then that's kind of, I think we only refine somewhere in the neighborhood of a couple of million barrels a day in this country, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. And those are the things that absolutely you just identified, I guess you'd say the crux of where the problem actually lies. How do we deal with that? Well, I guess there's ways of dealing with it. I know for a fact that in other countries, oil-producing countries, it's pretty well led by major conglomerate companies, and the government has very little input into it, but those countries don't do very well.
Oh, I don't know about that. I mean, if you look at Iraq or Saudi Arabia or the Emirates, I mean, the government controls the business. They are the business. I mean, yes. Saudi Aramco is a government company and one of the big oil producers on the face of the earth. Venezuela, pretty much controlled by the government, which is why we hear so much talk about the Americans in Venezuela. It's not about drugs, it's about oil. I mean, come on. People asleep at the wheel or what? So, I mean, I get where you're coming from, but for instance, the Irvings will tell you in no uncertain terms they import Saudi oil because of the light sweet crude, number one. And number two, it's cheaper to send it by tanker from the Middle East than it is to pump it through a pipeline in this country. And then you talk about using our own supply. I mean, the whole Alberta bit about a pipeline, that's not destined for refining here in this country. That's destined for a tanker off the BC coast head to Asia. So we're not even, I mean, even the Alberta government, who is the biggest proponent of oil in this country, they don't even talk about refining it. They just talk about pumping it out of the ground, pumping it through a pipeline, and getting it out of the country.
Yep.
Or sending it to the United States. We send them like 4 million barrels a day.
Yeah, and then we import the rest of it from the United States to refine ourselves. Absolutely nuts. I mean, they get the benefit of what we export. And apparently, this is what I've been told and what I've read. There's not much better oil on the planet in terms of clean oil, if there's such a word, if there's such a term. I think ours is basically as good as any.
Yeah.
And it's right here. So if you get around the logistics of what has been put up as stumbling blocks or or in some cases, they're put there in complete stop measures so that things can't happen. Well, maybe some of these things have got to be removed, and maybe the Canadian government got to put some more pressure on somebody in a different way that are in the process or in the capacity of being able to produce oil to do it here. I mean, that happens in many other industries. I mean, you get some benefit for creating employment and creating a tax base for what you're doing in a country. Maybe that should apply to oil too.
Yeah, I mean, at site, at the production level, the emissions are quite low when compared to other oil sources, like, for instance, in the oil sands in Alberta, what have you, which is a different product altogether. And I mean, LNG, so the big LNG Phase 1, Kitimat, is a huge operation. And LNG 2, which just got put into the Major Projects Office, which is a bit of a retread, because that's been approved for quite a long time. They simply haven't acted on it. And until there's some sort of royalty regime in this province for gas, no one's going to try to commit to doing anything with the gas if they don't know what the business model looks like. And you can't know what the business model looks like until there's some sort of royalty regime. So we're way behind here.
Well, one of the things we could look at doing, because I know it was looked at, I don't know how long ago, but a piece back, taking LNG and using these floaters to do LNG to electricity. And, it's done elsewhere in the world. You take the source, you tap it to the device, it produces electricity, and maybe we look at ways to produce items, trinkets here in the province. Hey, even down the road, maybe it might be something that we consider to control the cost of living for Newfoundlanders, because the price of heat and light in your house is not exactly getting any cheaper either. But you never hear tell of any of these power projects that would help to downgrade that, like to probably knock some of the price of your electrical bill out of your household.
Yeah, it's proximity.
It never seems to happen.
Yeah, I mean, if we built all this secondary and tertiary processing in the oil or gas sector, it'd probably make things more expensive here, because there's only 540,000 of us. We can only consume so much compared to what's being produced. If we talk about trillions of cubic feet of natural gas, whether we talk about millions of barrels of oil offshore or billions of barrels of oil offshore, I mean, if you build the processing here, you probably make life more expensive. You might create some jobs.
I don't know. I guess you're right. I guess there's an argument to be made for that, but at the same time, it's kind of hard to fathom that we import all of this oil, we allow it to happen, companies profit from different contractual situations, and they'll take the cheapest product, but it doesn't seem to ever return to the average Canadian, average Newfoundlander. Our prices just keep going up. Like the price of food, it keeps going up. There's got to be, I mean, right now we're at breaking point for a lot of people. I mean, I heard you discuss with a caller earlier, like the price of a chicken. I mean, pre-COVID, that chicken was $8, $10, $12 maybe.
Yeah.
It's $22 now. And that is just something, I mean, the rest of us watching everybody else getting richer, or have we consumed ourselves with the due processes and the protections and everything that go to the end price, the unit price at the end? It's been benefiting, no doubt, everything from, like the electricity to whatever's required. I mean, should be a natural resource that should benefit us, but you never, ever hear of it.
Dave, I got to get going, but I appreciate your time.
Thanks, buddy.
All the best.
Take care.
You too. Bye-bye. All right, let's get that break. And when we come back, Valentine Lake. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 5. Caller, you're on the air.
How you doing this morning, Paddy?
Not too bad, I suppose. You?
Not too bad. I just called, that previous caller called in about Valentine Lake, prompted me to give you a ring and just chat about kind of my experience, I guess. I don't know what's, like, it's been after being sold a few times now, so I do know when Marathon started up, they had an agreement that they were supposed to have hiring priorities from the 5 surrounding communities. And I don't know that that's being followed now that it's been sold a bunch of times. And in my case in particular, there was some positions posted and I knew that I was more than qualified for, and I never even got an interview. And according to a few friends that are obviously on site, there was one of the 4 positions was filled by someone in this region, and the 3 were people that were from other places in the province. So that's why I just wanted to chime in with my own experience there.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's an interesting question you ask about, from Marathon to Caliber to Equinox, whether or not the same benefits agreement's in place, because when that caller did give us a ring, I went and found the benefits agreement for the Valentine Gold Project, and it said, just to paraphrase, no less than 85% of the project workforce will be provincial residents, and that's through construction and operations. So said the Marathon benefits agreement that they signed back in 2022.
Yeah, I ended up calling Chris Tibbs' office there and just, stayed anonymous because there's other positions that I'm qualified for and that I'll be applying on here in the future. And nobody even got back to me because I had the same concerns. I was like, you could at least give me an interview and pull the wool over my eyes. And, I could foresee, okay, there's someone else qualified, but to not even give the jobs to anybody that's, in the region that's qualified, that I know I'm qualified for. But anyway, I just want to put that out there.
Yeah, benefits agreements are only worth the paper they're printed on if they're adhered to. So I think even when you look at some mega project like Muskrat, I think we came somewhere around 85, close to 90% compliance with the benefits agreement. So I don't know how it's working currently out at Valentine Lake, and I wonder whether or not the agreement carried over from owner to owner. I think it probably does, but if we can get an update from Minister Parrott about, if it's no less than 85% have to be people from this province who are qualified, obviously, through construction and operations. Whether or not that's being followed today, it'd be interesting to know, especially we're talking about changing out security companies, changing out caterers. Kind of leads me to believe that we're probably not hitting that target.
Well, with Muskrat Falls, you had unions involved, so the unions were the ones that followed suit with the hiring protocols. Here, I don't think there's any checks and balances. Whoever's in the HR has just got the free reign, I guess, to do whatever. I don't know if there's any checks and balances in place here.
You would hope so. I mean, you can't just sign contracts and just cross your fingers, hope for the best. That's not how anything works in this world. Anyone, whether it be individuals or corporations or governments, if they can get away with something because they know no one's looking, of course, what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, so.
Anyway, I appreciate the time.
Yep, no sweat.
Thanks for calling. All the best.
Yep.
All righty. Bye-bye. Yeah, I mean, the benefits agreement works if it's continuously monitored, the oversight is in place, enforcement is real. Very quick traffic note. There's a wooden pallet on Kenmount Road near the lights of Brown Drive on the Paradise St. John's border, so look out for the pallet. Let's get a break in here. Still another half of the program left to go. The topic up to you. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 1 and say good morning to Wesley Wark, who's a senior fellow at the Centre for International Governance Innovation and joins us on the line. Good morning, Wesley. You're on the air.
Oh, good morning, Paddy. How?
Great to have you on the program. Thanks for making time.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to the conversation.
So we all know the issue regarding China and the protection of sensitive information. I mean, a couple of years ago, the government thought enough of it to ban the use of TikTok from government phones. But here we are knowing that 80% of the RCMP's drone fleet are Chinese drones. What do we know about the high sensitive information?
Well, it's a very strange story that the CBC uncovered. For sure, the percentage of drones manufactured by Chinese companies that the RCMP is using for a variety of public security activities, including, watches on the border, which is high profile these days. About between 80 and 90% of these drones are Chinese manufacture. And the RCMP has come around to the view that this is not a good idea and there could be security risk. But I think the real question is, how did we arrive at this point? In recent times, this is a program that's only existed for the last few years when concerns about Chinese technology has been very much on people's minds. How did we arrive at this situation where the RCMP is is flooded with drones manufactured by China rather than from any of our allies or indeed from Canadian manufacturers.
Yeah, well, I don't understand why we're not bigger into the business ourselves here in this country in domestic procurement and all the focus on domestic procurement, especially in defence. So do we happen to have any understanding about some of the sensitive information that would have been captured by these drones that may have been compromised?
Well, I think that, to be honest, my sense is the fear is more theoretical than real. The concern is that, these are small drones. Some of your listeners will be familiar with them, maybe even operate them. These little, what they call quadcopter drones. They have very short range. They can carry cameras, of course, which is their value for the RCMP and being able to monitor something, at short range from the sky. And of course, they're of value because they can transmit data from these drones kind of instantaneously down to some kind of ground controller. The concern is, well, could that data, images, geolocation stuff, could that data find its way into the hands of the Chinese authorities? I think that's, to be honest, pretty unlikely, but it doesn't excuse the RCMP from just going out and buying Chinese drones willy-nilly when there were so many other opportunities. And as you say, Patty, not least, Canada has a pretty vibrant ecosystem of drone manufacture, and China has, to be sure, captured the market in commercial drones, which is what the RCMP did. They just rushed out and bought them off the shelf. I don't think they gave any thought to the alternatives, and that's why they've landed in the situation where they are, where they're going to have to spend a lot of money getting rid of all these Chinese drones from their fleet.
Yeah, tens of millions of dollars is my understanding. So it all really feels to me like this was simply about cost. I mean, we know that drones can replace, fixed-wing aircraft or helicopters to do some of this work, monitoring on the border or otherwise. So it really just feels like this was cost-saving stuff without any real forethought or foresight.
Patty, I would like to think that it was something as pragmatic as that, but I think very little thought went into it at all. I don't think they calculated cost. I think they were in a rush. Understandably, perhaps. They knew they needed this technology. It could be a great assistance to them in terms of public security duties of all kinds. So they needed the technology. They looked around. Where could we get our hands on the technology quickly? Essentially, we'll go online and buy it. We'll go to our local hobby store and buy it. Maybe an RCMP constable will shed out a little money reimbursed for to get a drone to be used by a detachment. That's how the system worked. Looking back on it, it's crazy that's how we acquired drones. And the RCMP could have learned, for example, from much more slow-moving military who's taking a very kind of deliberate approach to the acquisition of drones. They could have used military channels to acquire stuff. They could have developed their own purchase program within Canada. And as I say, we have a ton of good, small, medium-sized enterprises in Canada that are building drones for public security work. But that's not what the RCMP did. I thought it was just thoughtless, to be honest.
Yeah, lazy or incompetent. I'll leave it to the listener to assign an adjective. Apparently we use French drones and Belgian drones and American drones, but as you say, we have a drone industry here in the country, which leads us down the whole pathway of domestic procurement. And let's talk defense spending, which drones do play an active role. The military of the future is going to look different than the military of the past. We're not building for trench warfare these days. So how should we be thinking about the military of the future, specifically when we talk about domestic procurement? Because we're going to be talking about the pathway to 5% of GDP is going to be at bare minimum $150 billion per year. So how would you like governments to think about and talk about it?
Yeah, I think the important thing, Patty, I'm not going to suggest it's not a complex, thing to do to get defense procurement right after decades of getting it wrong, frankly, and getting it right in a hurry. But I think the thing that we really have to focus on, and I think this is understood, honestly, in the Department of National Defense, is that whenever we can go to a Canadian manufacturer for a particular capability that Canada can be good at or is currently good at manufacturing, whether the complete bit of gear or components of it, we buy Canadian. I think that's so important, and that will boost the industry itself. And when it comes to drones, there are a lot of short and medium-range drones that could easily be constructed by Canadian firms, and some of which are being constructed and are actually being bought by Canadian federal government agencies for various pieces of work. it's there. And I think it's important for your listeners to understand, drones really have an outer skin, which is really easy to manufacture. Some of it's actually styrofoam, the fuselage, the wings and so on. What's the complex bit is the internal pieces, the software, the guidance systems, the sensor systems. We're really good at that kind of stuff. That's what we really should be focusing on. Let's get the majority of good equipment, out the door from Canadian firms into the hands of, the Department of Defense, the Canadian Armed Forces, the security agencies, whoever needs them, and go to external manufacturers for some of the more exotic kind of long-range drones that we probably shouldn't be trying to kind of duplicate by manufacturing in Canada. We may have to go, and we are going to the Americans to buy the so-called Reaper drones for Arctic surveillance. That's fine. But the vast majority of the drones we're going to need would be easy to manufacture, and we have the capability to put the sort of sensitive gear inside them. And that's really what we should be doing.
Yeah, and I mean, it just pops in my head. We're talking about drones even when combating wildfires, which is part of actual defence. I know they were test driving some of these Firefly drones out in Western Canada over the course of the summer, so we'll see where that lands. Yeah. There's some things we're not going to build in this country. Like, we are going to build ships for the military, but we're not going to build F-35s. We're not going to build Gripens. We're not going to build submarines necessarily. So how do we ensure that our partners, our allies, our friendlies get these contracts? I know the South Koreans are really quite aggressive in the world of submarine procurement and the pitch they've made to the government. The Germans are also in on it with their Type 12 CD. How do we think about the big price tags? Because we've just shifted spending, given it a different assignment. Like Coast Guard is now defence. Aviation Services at Transport Canada, now defence. Just in a way to pretend we're getting to 2% of GDP. So how do we ensure that we deal directly with our allies, especially when we're going to talk about cost competitiveness?
Yeah, I mean, I think the key thing is really to reinforce a practice that's been long on the books, but we haven't always followed, and we certainly didn't follow with the F-35 purchase, for example, and that is to ensure that there's a maximum amount of economic benefit directly to Canada from any equipment that we have to purchase from a foreign manufacturer. That quite apart from all the stuff that we should be purchasing directly from Canadian manufacturers. We've talked about that. So when we get to some of these really expensive, very complex systems that maybe we don't have a lot of experience ourselves, in constructing, need to go to a foreign manufacturer, whether it's submarines or long-range artillery or certain kinds of, ground-to-air defense systems, fighter jets. When that happens, we need to look for the maximum economic benefit in Canada to build up our own defense industrial base and in the future to be able to manufacture some of this ourselves. And, for example, the fighter jet controversy is a very interesting one because it pits an American manufacturer, which isn't giving us much in the way of benefits economically, with a competitor from Saab, the Gripen that you mentioned, where Saab has said, you can build the planes in Canada, and we would look forward to that. So that's, and the trouble that we have is that our defense establishment leans very, very heavily in the direction of buying American and staying close to the Americans. It's a legacy way of thinking, which I think many people would say doesn't fit the realities of the current world and the way in which the United States is posturing itself in the world.
Well, even the American ambassador, Pete Hegstra, who's a pathetic failure as a diplomat, he's pretty much threatened trade is reliant on following through with F-35 contracts, and he keeps using 88, but that's not the number. It's 16. We've got a price on 16. The remainder, we haven't even set a price, so we don't know them anything on that front. And this might be a better question for the military, but there's also thoughts out there about a mixed fleet. To have Saab Gripens built in this country, which looks like huge economic benefit, as well as complementing the military, with the F-35 and the Gripen. Have you done much work at looking at that mixed fleet, whether it be training and facilities and maintenance and all that goes with it?
Yeah, I have written about this, Paddy, and just briefly to summarize the argument, I would say a mixed fleet probably makes the most sense for Canada. Okay. Department of Defense people hate the idea. I would say buy some number of F-35s. Don't operate them in Canada for NORAD purposes. We don't need a stealth fighter jet for that role, and it's not very good in the Arctic, and it doesn't have very long range. send them to Europe, co-base them with one of our European allies. It could be the Norwegians, for example, who have indicated they'd welcome a Canadian contingent working alongside them. We could share bases, we could share maintenance, training, all the rest. It would really reduce the cost of that program and make a huge contribution to NATO. Meanwhile, buy the Saab, which would be a much better plane for our continental air defense, air surveillance, and security patrol purposes, and can work with the Americans with that plane. So I think, Saabs for Canada, F-35s for a European NATO mission, that's the thing that makes sense to me.
Yeah, and the Gripen seems to be more reliable insofar as operable hours when compared to the F-35, from what I've read. I'm no expert in avionics, obviously.
I think that's absolutely the case. From all that we know about the F-35, it's a very, very complex piece of equipment. They're having trouble building the latest iteration of it. It's way behind schedule, way over budget. The British have had trouble operating some of their F-35s that they have. And I think it's undoubtedly the case, no matter how good that fighter jet is, that if Canada possesses it, it'll be flying many few hours than its equivalent Saab jet would be. The Saab is a tested, proven platform that's been around in various variations for a very long time. The thing I really like about the Saab is that it has long range and it's built to work in northern and Arctic conditions. It's a Swedish plane after all. The thing that your listeners may not understand about a stealth fighter is, as remarkable as stealth fighters are, they cannot carry extra fuel tanks on their wings. So they're limited to the radius of action from internal fuel tanks, which is very different from the Saab. So they can't fly across the Arctic, for example.
And, I mean, Arctic sovereignty is going to be the key defense issue for this country into the decades into the future. So it all makes sense to me. An interesting partnership with Australia for Arctic surveillance and what have you. Any final thoughts or anything that I've been missing, which was probably a lot this morning?
No, listen, I think Canada is going through a kind of revolutionary change in its approach to what we need from a military and the kind of military power that Canada should be. And I think that Canadians are going to have to wrestle with this and decide the extent to which they really want a new big military and feel they can afford it. The government has a big job in their hands to explain why Canada needs this. It's one thing to say, well, there's a NATO target of 5%. That we're going to reach. It's another thing for the Canadian government to come out and say, this is why we're doing it for Canada. And I think that's a big piece of the work that needs to be done between whatever government is in place and the Canadian public over the next 10 years.
And the Canadian military is an outlier in that every other department or wing of government finds out a way to spend every single cent of their budget, but the military not so much, leaving the money on the table. It's a remarkable case study.
Well, that's true. I mean, it's not unique to the military, but they have a special problem with it, and partly that's caution. They build these very complex systems. They create these very complex requirements for military equipment. They find themselves over budget, over time. They always want to. My sense is the military always wants the perfect piece of military gear. What we need in the future is the piece of military gear that works and that is replaceable down the road and is less expensive than the perfect stuff.
Really appreciate your time. It's nice to meet you, Wesley. Thanks for doing this.
You too. Thanks very much, Paddy.
All the best. Bye-bye. Wesley Wark, Senior Fellow at the Centre for International Governance Innovation. Good guy there. Let's get a break in. Don't go away. Welcome back to the program. Let's go to line number 2. Say good morning to the Mayor of Mary's Harbour. That's Alton Rumbold. Mayor Rumbold, you're on the air.
Good morning, Paddy.
Good morning to you. Welcome to the show.
Yes.
I don't know what happened there. Dave, you want to see if we can't reconnect? The call dropped with Mayor Rumbold up in Mary's Harbour. I think there's some conversation coming with the Mayor. I'm not entirely sure. But I think it's about access to some of the programs that have been put forward, oil to electric incentives, and the move on to heat pumps and those types of things. I'm not entirely sure how it works in Labrador, but there are different circumstances on the big land versus on the island. And I think it's basically about the connection with the interconnected grid. That is the technical issue that maybe keeps some Labradorians out of it. But we'll find out when we rejoin Mayor Rumbold on 2. Mayor, you're back on the air.
Yeah, sorry about that, Paddy. Got cut off there.
No problem.
Yeah, I called this morning, Paddy, concerned the rebate on heat pumps for Labrador.
Okay.
A big part of Labrador is on diesel generated power. And as you know, that's a very costly thing to operate, I guess, no doubt, in the communities. And the people, no doubt, pay dearly for the power. No, there's the people on the island seem like there's a rebate for power. I think it's people with the transmission line, but on diesel you're not eligible. And it's a bit hard to understand why, I guess, because the cost of power, air, and we can't even use liquid heat or anything in our communities because if you got to burn liquid heat on diesel power like that, it'd be a fortune. You just can't do it.
Right. So are people in Labrador eligible for the program? But the caveat is they have to be connected to the interconnected electricity grid, not diesel, right? It's as simple as that?
Yeah, that's pretty much as simple what it is because the funds that subsidize that power is federal funds and is administered through the province. So, I mean, our government, I guess, got to say in where it goes and who gets it. But the sad part about it, the people that live on this part of the coast is not eligible for it. And, Patty, we got a lot of seniors in our communities now, and there's a aging population, and it's not good for these people who got to get out and get wood at the snow or whatever and try to keep their houses warm. And there's a program there that you can get to get a heat pump and make life much easier for these people, you know?
Yeah, I don't know if I know much about it or what you know about the program that was launched back, I guess, a couple of years ago now, or maybe just last year, the Isolated Community Energy Efficiency Program. Do you know anything about that or how that works or whether it applies to your community?
No, I don't know anything on that, Patty. I got no information on that. The only thing we do know now is the rebate on these heat pumps. And I was talking to my HMA about it and stuff like that. And I think they were pushing the issue in the past, but never got it to happen. And I don't know why. We call our people one province, Newfoundland and Labrador. It seemed like when programs, certain things were left out of it. For whatever reason, I don't know. If they're going to put a program out, treat everybody alike, so we'll have the same opportunity to apply like anyone else. It seems like it's always a struggle in this part of the coast to get eligible for programs and stuff like that. I mean, we love to use liquid heat here in Labrador. Yes, we got Wallbush, we got Lab City, we got Goose Bay. We got cheaper power. We get a little bit of a break in our power, but we still pay dearly. We pay almost 20 cents a kilowatt, you know, once you goes over a certain amount. And that can get expensive. But I guess the biggest thing that concerns me about a lot of this is our seniors. And we got a lot of them right now. I mean, I would love for these people to have access to that program. And look at the less emissions you'll be putting out in here. I mean, it's a win all around. But the problem is why we're not part of it. That's the struggling part that I got a job to understand, and why we're not a part of it, you know.
I get it. I mean, I still kind of understand when the diesel-fired generator burnt down in Charlottetown, we replaced it with a diesel-fired generator. I mean, here we are talking about hydro all the time. I'm going to, if you send me an email, I'm going to send you a link to something that I did read about not too long ago about isolated communities, whether or not there might be something there available for the residents in Mary's Harbour. Because it's not the standard oil to electric incentive program that everyone talks about with the heat pumps and the rebates and whatnot. This is a very specific one, and I'm pretty sure it made references specifically to Southern Labrador. So I'm going to try to find it, but if you send me an email, I'll try to reply with the information that I find.
Well, Patty, that would be great. We take in the information we can get, and then if anything, I don't know why that we never heard about it. Just the same, it may be out there, you know. But anyway, I like to see. I mean, we got a new government there now. I just hope that Leila Evans hears this conversation, because she is the minister. I know this was help, but she's for Labrador also. And I hope that she'll sit down and take these concerns to her government, because it's not just about the southeast coast of Labrador, but all the people that's on diesel generator power, north coast and all. And it is federal funding, and we might have to dip in to look for more, but let's everybody be treated the same. You know, that's the thing the goal I got with it, and I'll give everybody an opportunity to apply for.
Right, and I'm going to try to confirm. I believe the program I'm talking about was part and parcel of the Canada Greener Homes program, which has indeed dried up. So I don't know if this has been splintered out to exist into the future. But Canada Greener Homes was a huge pot of money, but it got completely exhausted last year, and they shut it down. I don't know if that impacted this program. Right, I know they did some upgrades and retrofits for a couple of commercial buildings in Nain. There were people in Rigolette availed of it. So you send me a note, I'll send along the information, and I'll try to confirm that it continues to exist today.
Yes, okay, that'd be great. And I think that was a bit of a different program. I'm not sure with the individual use holders and stuff like that. But anyway, we'll see. We'll check into it and appreciate it. And thank you very much. And I will send you my email.
Thank you, Mayor Rumbold. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. Yeah, I'll try to find that, confirm that's still alive and kicking. And it wasn't just commercial buildings as far as I can tell, or as far as I can recall. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it applied to homes too. Let's see here. Let's get a break in for the news. When we come back, plenty of show left for you. Don't go away.
You're listening to a rebroadcast of VOCM Open Line. Have your say by calling 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626 and listen live weekday mornings at 9 a.m.
Welcome back. Let's go to line number 3. Good morning, Anna Tapper. You're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. Thanks for taking my call today.
Happy to
I
do
just wanted to let everybody know that the 15th annual Holy Heart of Mary Alumni Choir Christmas concert and sing-along is happening this Sunday, December 7th at 4 p.m. at St. Teresa's Church on Monday Pond Road.
It sounds good. So insofar as the sing-along goes, so are you going to be passing out song sheets and the like, or how's it going to work?
Well, there's going to be a little bit of everything. We're going to have performances, of course, by our choir. We also have a couple of guest performers. We have Close Quarters a cappella quartet, Bellanova Choir, and St. Teresa's Folk Choir. So we'll all be singing some songs individually, as well as having the audience participate in some songs that everybody would know and recognize.
Lovely. How many people are members of the Holy Heart Alumni Choir?
Oh, we have about, I guess, somewhere between 80 and 90 members right now. And, you know, Patty, this concert has been going on now for 15 years, and we really want to thank all the supporters over the years who have come and supported the show, because all proceeds go to the St. Teresa St. Vincent de Paul Christmas Hamper Fund. And this year, so that we can reach so many more people who would like to hear the show and be involved with this fundraiser, we're having it live streamed. And anybody can access the link through either our Facebook page, Instagram, or our website at heartnotes.net.
It sounds terrific to me. Do more recent graduates as alumni continue to join the choir?
Well, any alumni from Holy Heart High School is eligible to join the choir. So we have members who are back to the very beginnings of the school, let's say, and other members, I think our most recent members might be around the late 90s or maybe the 2000 year graduates. So, you know, it's gradually getting later and later into the membership years.
Give us the details one more time, Anna, the where, the whens.
Okay, so it's this Sunday, December 7th, 4 p.m. at St. Teresa's Church on Monday Pond Road, under the direction of Barbara O'Keefe. And, of course, we still have our accompanist, Mary Jane Maloney. And you can catch us by live streaming. The link can be found on our Facebook page, Instagram, or the Holy Heart website, www.heartnotes.net. And admission is by donation for the St. Vincent de Paul Christmas Hamper Fund. And anybody who's watching us through the live link online can certainly e-transfer a donation. All the information to do that is there on our website and on our Facebook page.
Terrific. Anna, every time I hear Mary Jane Maloney, it makes me think about the same two things. Number one, she's my cousin. And number two, she was my boys' music teacher at Vanier when they went there. And my oldest, Nicholas, he came home on the first day of school. And, of course, she said, who are your teachers and whatnot? And I said, how about your music teacher? And he looks at me with this curious look. He says, I think her name is Madame Baloney. I love that story.
It's funny how the kids' stories stick with you in your mind for so long.
No question, because that's like almost 25 years ago when that story initially was told. And Merry Christmas to you and yours, and hopefully the concert is a big success.
Thank you, and Merry Christmas to you as well, Patty.
Thank you, Anna. All the best.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. I love that story. Madame Baloney? Let's go. Line number 1. Rob, you're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. How are you?
Okay. How about you?
Merry Christmas to you and all.
Yeah, same to you, man.
And so now I was just going over this, the 50-50. So, like you guys do a fabulous job at getting this 50-50 on the go. Every year it just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and it's just extraordinary and beautiful to hear. But I got a couple quick questions.
Okay.
So is it available across Canada?
The VOCM 50-50?
Yeah.
The VOCM cares? No, I think it's just this province because it's provincial jurisdiction for lottery licenses.
Okay. So, because I find it, I'm a Jays fan too.
Yep.
And the only Canadian team, and they say they're all Canadian, but the only time you can get on their 50-50 is if you're in Ontario or Nova Scotia.
Yep, you're right.
So how is that an all-Canadian team?
Well, it's a very similar answer to the VOCM Cares one because all the lottery licenses are provincial jurisdictions in this country. So the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario, of course, approves of the 50-50 from the Blue Jays Foundation, and Nova Scotia is the only province that has successfully negotiated a joint license with them. So Nova Scotia's gaming board, they went to the Jays and negotiated a straight-up deal with them, which I think every province can do. Whether or not they've attempted it or whether or not they came up short, I don't know. But Nova Scotia purposefully went to the Blue Jays Foundation and organized a joint license on this front and got approved by the Nova Scotia Gaming Commission.
Good on them, you know. But like I said, it's just like there's only one Canadian team that we can watch and hear and root for, and nobody else can get in on this 50-50. What was the last one? Over $2 million. It's just unbelievable that nobody else in Canada, with the only Canadian team, can get in on it.
Yeah,
it's just unbelievable.
If you're waiting to get a call from like Buck Martinez or Dan Schulman or Joe Carter, I think made the last call for the winner. But you know what? That's not the Jays' fault. That's the other provinces. Like if we want our government to negotiate with the Blue Jays Foundation and get provincial approval, then we might be able to get a piece of the action because the Jays themselves, they can't just simply say, okay, everyone in the country is allowed to buy a 50-50 ticket because it's not up to them. It's up to the provinces. So maybe, just maybe, if people in this province think it's a good idea, because I don't know what kind of monumental effort it would take for a negotiation on that front and then for the province to approve that license. But yeah, it's not even up to the Jays, it's up to the provinces.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. I'm not a gambling person or anything like that. There's all this, like you've said before, with this BetMGM and OJ and all this stuff and that, but it's still all just Ontario.
Yeah.
So why are we even getting advertisement on it? Get rid of it. We don't need it out here.
Yeah, Bet365 or whatever it is just non-stop when you're trying to watch the game, being bombarded with things. And I mean, I think some of the online applications, they are private-run businesses that don't require some of these approvals, like for a 50-50. Like if I'm selling any sort of 50-50s, even as, what's a good example? Like a Minor Hockey Association, you have to get a license. If I want to get a raffle on to go and the grand prize is a trip to Montreal to watch a hockey game, I need a license for it. And so they'd all be provincial matters. But it's a fair question, Rob, and that's exactly why it is the way it is the province of Nova Scotia went forward of their own accord, negotiated the rights with the Blue Jays Foundation, and they got provincial approval in Nova Scotia.
And good for them. I don't want to move to Nova Scotia or back to Ontario or anything like that. I want to stay here, but the rules are just so screwed. It's just I don't know why they're not on it.
I get it, and it's a huge prize all the time, no doubt about it. But if you go to a Jays game and you live here, if you buy a ticket at the Jays game, you're eligible. You can still win.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. So, but anyways, just again, have a Merry Christmas to you and all the staff and everybody.
The same to you, Rob. Thanks for your time this morning.
Okay, cheers, buddy.
All right, bye-bye. Yeah, it's all provincial auto licenses, right? Let's get a break in here. When we come back, lots of show left for you. Topic up to you. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let us go. Line number 2. Good morning, Mike. You're on the air.
Good morning, Paddy. It's not a very nice one this morning, but we're on this side of the sod. We can't complain too much.
Yes, sir.
A little, I guess, spiel on snow clearing. We had our first major event a couple, 3 days ago. We live on, or I work on the main stretch going through New West Valley, and on a 4-hour time frame, there hadn't been a highways plow that went by the business. So I done a little bit of investigating, reached out to our MHA, and give credit where it's due. He came back to me rather quickly and told me that, in our area, our depot has 5 flyers for a fairly big area, and there was a request in for 3 more. And I'm not sure if that meant that we always had 8, or did they want to increase the fleet, or they don't have enough drivers and they're looking for 3 more drivers. I'm not exactly sure, but if there were 5 on, it certainly isn't enough. We're here this morning. We've been here since 8:30. It's now again 11:30, and 3-hour stretch, and they haven't been down through. I understand, if you're short machines or you're short people and they call in sick, I mean, you can't help that stuff. But if there isn't enough flyers on, and obviously the need is there for it, it's a big geographical area with a lot of open country and drifting snow and difficult areas, then if the request is in, then I think it's the onus on the government to make sure that we get those 3 extra units.
So are these new units yet to be procured, or are they existing units that you just want to see transferred to your area? I got the information from Mr. McKenna was that they have 5 and they're putting in a request for 3 more. So I'm not sure if that's 3 new or they can't fill 3 old positions from last year. If it's as simple as, well, the request is in, can you give us 3 more, the need is there. I mean, especially when you consider, patting themselves on the back and for 24-hour snow clearing and whatnot in certain areas, again, area that we weren't included in. But if you can't keep the routes that are already open filled or staffed adequately, then how do you expect to, increase the service? I think that's the key question here in these expanded 14 routes for what they call 24/7 snow clearing. Until you have the machinery and the operators, it's still just a plan in progress.
I mean, I do know one of the operators is not back with him this year. It's a small town. He took a job somewhere else. So is it just the fact that they can't find 3 more drivers? Or, this is the question. And obviously 5 pieces of equipment cannot adequately cover the area that this depot covers there in Lumsden. And it's getting to the point, we're into a winter storm watch again for today. There's going to be a flash freeze. There's about 6 inches of slush on the road. So that flash freeze is going to turn all our roads into an ice rink.
Yeah, it's slick in town. I just read an email from my own HR department here today saying the parking lot is wicked slippery. I just got another email from someone on the Burren Peninsula that said they just about went off the road going 80 kilometres an hour on the highway. So it's pretty slick out there. Today's the day for ice control and snow clearing, obviously.
Yes, and just to get back to your preamble, you spoke about the opposition criticising. I mean, yes, they're just new getting in, and obviously you've got to give them time to get their feet wet. But I think what gets the ire up of individuals is that when you are the opposition and you're already spouting the fact that you have all the answers and that you know what needs to be done, and in the short while they've been in there, it's been a repeat for the MOU. It's a repeat now for the Justice review. If you had all the answers and you knew what needed to be fixed, and I mean, it's not me saying this. I mean, I heard enough interviews during the election that, our government would do it this way, our government has the answers, and then you get in and you're spinning your heels, then, I think that's what gets the ire up more than the opposition criticizing.
I get it. Yeah. And that's a fair observation or perspective. Mike, anything else while we have you?
Yeah, I put on the deputy fire chief's hat for a second. We've had a couple instances in the last week, one regarding the local school here, Pearson Academy, where they called in and said that they were scheduling a fire alarm, and they had their fire drill at 10 after 11. At 26 after 11, we got a page from the monitoring center that does the schools, and very hard to pick out what was being said on the other end. They stated that at 11:31, we got the call saying that at 11:26 they received a page that there was a fire alarm at the school. Again, they gave the address, which was very hard to hear. I ended up having to go to the town hall next door to pinpoint where exactly we were going to get up to the school. And that's when we found out that, we called the monitoring center and told them that we were having this drill. And 16 minutes later, the call center decides that, okay, there's a fire at the school, and they don't bother 5 minutes later to call us to dispatch. So there's definitely some issues with the call centers, the monitoring centers, and what I said to the principal is that in the event that you actually have a fire, do not rely on the monitoring center. As soon as that alarm goes off, pick up the phone yourself and call 911 or call the local fire department and let them know exactly what's going on. The other issue we had is at the local fish plant where the alarms were continuously going off. They were actually purging their system, and they informed their monitoring center that they were doing testing and whatnot. And in the span of 2 days, I think we were dispatched 6 times for a fire alarm at that building. So, again, we instructed the staff, the engineers up there that, if this happens, call back right away and say, it's a false alarm and stand down because, especially this time of year with roads being slick, you don't want your emergency vehicles responding to things that certainly aren't necessary. And on the other stretch, that if there is an actual emergency and the monitoring centers are slow picking up on it, then, we want to know as soon as possible.
All makes sense to me. I'll add to it, for smaller communities out there that do not use civic addresses, for first responders it would be particularly helpful. We just lock it into the GPS so that first responders aren't looking for the second house past Nanny Greens or, some of those references for smaller communities. And there's an easy kit available at the provincial government. You can just Google it up, civic address kit, Newfoundland Labrador government. You'll go right to the page. It's a really simple process. The government does most of the work for you.
Yeah, we do use civic addresses, but again, sometimes it's very hard to pick out the civic addresses being given to you because of where the monitoring center is located, I guess.
Fair enough. Anything else, Mike?
No, that's everything, sir. Like I said, I hope that, and again, I know the government's new, and I hope that they do have some new ideas and some ways of boosting our economy, because it does none of us any good for the government of the day to not be doing their job. I want them to succeed, because if they don't succeed, we're going to be in worse condition than what we already are.
Look, it's in our collective best interest if whoever the party is in government, if they do a good job, that's good for all of us. Political fortunes be damned. As a taxpayer, I'm more concerned with positive outcomes and solutions, personally.
100%, Paddy, and that's why I always said party politics has a way of not working. I think it needs to be more municipal, where you have people who are fighting for their districts and not relying on just party lines to get them elected.
Fair enough. Appreciate the time, Mike. Thanks for doing it.
Thank you, sir. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. All right, we're running up against the news, so we won't squeeze in either way. And wants to talk a little fixed link. Maria Gentle is the Executive Director at the YWCA St. John's. Trent's also there to talk about the proposed 24/7 snow clearing. Just a quick major junior hockey note. So here comes Charlottetown this weekend to play against the Regiment down at the Mary Brown Centre. It's the last homestand of the calendar year, so people might be interested to go down and check it out. Exciting weekend for local goaltender from Holyrood, Will Morgan. Got called up to play the net for Charlottetown. So that's one of those things when you're on the road, it's the local goalies that might get a chance to get a call up. And in this case, Will Morgan from Holyrood's going to get a chance to play in the net against the Regiment for Charlottetown. All right, let's see here. Those 3 callers, you stay right there. We'll be back right after the newscast. Don't go away.
The Tim Powers Show. Join the conversation weekday afternoons at 4 p.m. on your VOCM.
Welcome back to the program. Let's go to line number 3 and say good morning to the Executive Director at the YWCA St. John's. That's Maria Gentle. Hi, Maria. You're on the air. Maria, on line number 3, are you there? Dave, you want to try to figure that out for me?
I am here.
Oh, good.
Yes, I'm here. Thanks so much for having me, Patty.
Happy to do it.
Today I'm calling in during the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, and tomorrow YWCA is observing December 6th, which is the National Day of Remembrance and Action on Violence Against Women. All of that can seem very overwhelming, of course, to listeners, and so I'm calling to offer some hope and a way people can contribute to make a difference for survivors.
And how can they?
Well, we're calling on community to increase the number of participants and survivors we can serve through our NESS Fund, and that's the National Emergency Survivor Support Fund that recognizes that financial security is really one of the leading pathways for safety for survivors.
So how does that actually work? Because, when people are leaving violent situations in the home, first things first, they need a place to go. So is that money intended to be covered for housing, what have you? Because it all makes sense to me. I mean, financial security is obviously a solid pathway to protection in every area. But with vacancies so low and homes so expensive, how does the fund work?
Yes, YWCA St. John's works with our partners and with survivors to create a healing pathway for safety. And this means that we listen to survivors, we believe survivors, and we assist with urgent costs related to fleeing violence at their pace. And this could support in establishing safe housing, including first and last month's rent, travel, utility setup, furniture costs, whatever it means to that person to find that pathway to healing. And over 90% of recipients through our own fund and through our national connections with the National NESS Fund report that participation in the program increased a survivor's sense of well-being, survivors' sense of safety, and improved their living conditions. And so the important part to know is that this is a survivor-led strategy, and that folks who know the insidious natures of gender-based violence, that survivors need options, and we're calling on community to believe survivors, to make a donation to our NESS Fund, because that can make a difference.
So we're trying to have the community offer an increase in the number of survivors that can be helped here. Can you give us some numbers based on history, like last year, and how many you're trying to expand the program to accommodate?
Yeah, so folks can go to donate to our NESS Fund on our website and click the NESS banner on www.ywcastjohns.com. Last year, we began our NESS Fund awareness campaign that led to a remarkable outpouring of support from community, individuals, unions, and that allowed us to increase our donations and our support of survivors. And this year we're asking to do the same. And the number of folks who contribute, it directly increases the number of participants we can support. This is a form of community-centric fundraising that means 100% of the donations go directly to survivors. The other part, recognizing the nature of financial abuse and financial entanglement in gender-based violence, is that we have a financial empowerment program who oversees NESS as well as provides, one-to-one support to help map out a healing plan, connect folks to services and a trauma-informed approach, but also to recognize the other many financial systems that impact someone's journey to safety and well-being. That can look at tax filing, financial support and navigation, that looks at a holistic way of pathway to healing, like I said. It's many options, sometimes in a very difficult system that is very unique to individuals.
Maria, I appreciate your time. Good luck with the program. You're always welcome.
Thanks so much, Patty. And again, for folks to make a commitment to survivors, to go to our website at www.ywcastjohns.com and click to our banner. Your contribution means you believe survivors and you can make a difference. Thanks so much.
You're welcome, Maria. Take good care.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. Maria Gentle, Executive Director at the YWCA St. John's. Let's go to line number 1. Wayne, you're on the air.
Morning, Patty. Thanks for taking my call.
Happy to do it.
I was phoning in to talk about fixed link. I think Newfoundland really needs a fixed link to bring up our prosperity a lot. Also to get things back and forth here, food and other things like that. if you look at the Confederation Bridge that was built over the PEI, I think my numbers could be a bit off, but I think it cost $1 billion to build it, and I believe it was paid for in 1 year. So I can't imagine what the cost is for running the ferry and the amount of government subsidies that goes into it, and the amount of cost to the people that are using it for bringing in food and, of course, just for travel. I'm sure the Confederation Bridge upped the tourism in PEI probably about 50% after it was built, probably higher.
It certainly saw an economic boost to the island, no doubt about it. A couple of interesting things there. I think some of the arguments people make about the Confederation Bridge when comparing it to the fixed link is at the end of the bridge leaving PEI, I think it's somewhere like inside 100 kilometres, there's another 2 million people, which is a vastly different set of circumstances when you talk about access to the fixed link at Yankee Point to Point de Boer. So I think that's part of the argument where that, would we see commensurate uptake in traffic volume, tourists, ease with which the truckers would get here with perishable goods? Because we actually had a guy who operates a trucking company on the show earlier this morning and asked him directly if his truckers would use the fixed link, and it was sort of a not really was the answer. Now, I can't speak for truckers because I'm not one.
Yeah. Well, the thing about it is that when it's the boat, so many times that they're held up. So, the weather, the boat itself, it's just not 100%, going to make you get there. So if you've got perishable items like fruit and vegetables and stuff like that you're bringing in the province, then it's the chances that they're either going to spoil or they're going to be not a 100% good quality. The other thing, too, is that it also has opened up the doors for more things going out of the province. Like we talked about Marathon Gold. I guess they're going across the ferry all the time, and it's costing them a good bit to bring their gold out, I guess. So those things, certainly the price will come down, and maybe we'll open up more mining in Newfoundland. So we'll bring more taxation for the government and lower the taxes that are passed on to the public.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of arguments out there. I do read the reports that have been done. I mean, the old 2004 report from Hatch, and then they updated it in 2018. Then Arup came in and did an update in 2023, and prices continue to escalate. Like, if I Google up fixed link between Newfoundland and Labrador, I'll go back to a story of maybe 10, 15 years ago where they say $1.65 billion, you got yourself a fixed link. The most recent number from Arup was now we're at a price point of $4.8 billion, and that's numbers from 2 years ago. So who knows where it ends. So the trick is pretty clear. If this is ever going to get done, and if we're talking about the price tag, it's do it sooner than later. Because if you wait another X number of years, that $4 billion is going to be $6 billion.
Yes, and everything is going up, Paddy. I mean, we talk about the price of food, we talk about the price of transportation, oil, everything like that. Everything's going up. The sooner we can get that done and in process, it's certainly going to bring down, not going to bring down prices, but it'll certainly stabilize them more.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, if you get to Cape Breton and you're all the way at that tip in North Sydney, and then you see that the boat is going to be stalled based on weather or mechanical issues, I wonder how many truckers would then backtrack to get all the way to head up Quebec's North Shore to eventually come across a fixed link. I think there's lots of conversation to be had here. But number one, if it's in the hands of the Canada Infrastructure Bank, then let's go to the world of people that build tunnels and get their input, not just, pretend reviews that we've done currently. That's probably not fair, but go to the tunnel builders and see what they have to say, because then we'll have an idea about what a toll might be. Because of course, if they're going to build it, they won't be too concerned with flow, because they're only going to get charged. They're going to charge us to build it. We'll probably manage it, unlike the Confederation Bridge, which the people who built it pretty much manage it and collect the toll money. So I wonder how it would work.
Well, I think that the people who built the Confederation Bridge, if they've made $1 billion every year since it's been built, they're doing pretty good.
Yeah,
that was a good investment for them.
Yeah, I don't know what their profits look like, to be honest with you. I haven't checked in quite a long time.
Well, I don't know either, but I mean, in the first year after it was built, they say it cost $1 billion to build it, and it was paid off in 1 year. So, I mean, that's a very good investment for any company or anybody that wanted to put money up. And $1 billion is a lot of money. 4 point so many billion is a lot of money too. But if you're going to recover it in a couple of years, it doesn't look that big. And if you continue to make the same amount of money, or if it's coming back into Newfoundland coffers, it'd be even better.
100%. I appreciate you making time, Wayne. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for taking my call again, Patty. You have a great day.
The same to you. Take care. Yeah, I like the fixed-link conversation, or I enjoy the conversation anyway, but the numbers continue to grow. Like, even the completion of Route 138 in Quebec, they're actually talking about several $1 billion for that to be completed, and that's just the road work. That doesn't include any of the amenities that people would want, hotels and gas stations and shops and all the rest of it. Let's get our final break of the morning and the weekend. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go. Wrong clicker. Line number 4. Trent, you're on the air.
Hey, Patty, I'm on my Bluetooth here, so hopefully I don't lose you. How am I sounding there so far?
So far, so good. Go right ahead.
All right, perfect. I want to talk about two things. First, the 24-hour snow clearing and the snow clearing in general, and I'll get to the 24-hour snow clearing thing first. I don't know how... No, first of all, congratulations on the government. They went out and they said that they want to reintroduce 24-hour snow clearing, and they did. Good for them, pat on the back. However... how did they go about figuring out which routes were the most busiest or the most popular routes, I'm going to say, to determine the 24-hour snow clearing? And here's my reasoning why I'm asking that question. I'll give you two routes. Number one is when I looked at the list, I didn't see nothing going as far as Port-aux-Basques. And Port-aux-Basques is like the connection to our Trans-Canada Highway. We had the ferries, and we know that in the wintertime, or even not in the wintertime, we know in the wintertime with storms and weather, the ferries can run delayed. So if the ferry is not getting in at exactly at 11 o'clock in the morning, or 11 o'clock in the night, she might get in at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. There's no snow clearing. That's how we get our freight across the island using the tractor trailer. So how did they determine that Port-aux-Basques was not a popular route for 24-hour snow clearing?
Don't know. But don't we dispatch winter maintenance, ice control, and snow clearing to accommodate ferry traffic?
And this is my next topic. I'm going to talk about my next route, the Barron Peninsula Highway, my old stomping grounds. There's no 24-hour snow clearing on the Barron Peninsula. I seen a posting that the MHA from that area, Dwyer, posted the other day that he had a great conversation with Barry Pettin, and he's very well pleased with the decision that Pettin has made. I mean, how can he be pleased that his area was left off of the 24-hour snow clearing route? And his reasoning was, I have a firm commitment from MHA Pettin that if there's any need for emergency services, we will dispatch a snowplow. I'm sorry, Patty, but that doesn't cut it. I mean, getting the snowplow on the road at that hour in the morning. I mean, I don't know if the Goobies depot is going to be operated 24 hours around the clock. So the depot that we're going to have to depend on is from Clarenville. And Clarenville is a half hour to 45 minutes away before we could even get a plow out of Clarenville. So to me, that is unacceptable.
Yeah. I mean, even when it wasn't what we're calling 24/7 snow clearing now, when the argument was, well, if there's a need, we'll dispatch the required operators at that point, which is too late. There's already somebody in trouble, or there's already been an ambulance called, or the police are already responding to something. So this is a good start. Hopefully they can get it staffed up appropriately. Hopefully the equipment is going to be available to actually provide 24/7 snow clearing, because I'm pretty sure that has not started quite yet.
I saw comments online being made. People from the Barron Peninsula were making comments saying, like, why were we left off? And people were saying, the Barron Peninsula is not busy enough to manage a 24-hour snow clearing. Well, I beg to differ. I used to work at the gas station there in Goobies from 11 in the night to 7 o'clock in the morning. And the amount of traffic that we used to get coming into the Irving gas station after midnight, tractor trailer wise, was insane. It was crazy. And then around 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, we'd get more of a heavy traffic because we have people leaving the peninsula making their way into St. John's because they might have a doctor's appointment at 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. So people leave or are driving on that peninsula at all hours in the night. And not to forget now, we also have a fish plant in Arnold's Cove that is one of the major employers in that area, and we have the refinery that employs a lot of people. And a lot of people travel that Barron Peninsula Highway to get to point A to point B. So, I mean, for Jeff DeWater to come on and say, oh, if we have an emergency, we'll dispatch a plow operator, that's not acceptable.
I get it, and that was the argument made all those years ago. Anything else, Trent, before I sneak on one more call?
Yeah, well, sorry, I'll be right quick on this next topic. Snow clearing in general. We had our first dose of winter here earlier in the week, and some of the reports that I'm seeing online now, like I know the rumor goes you don't believe everything that you read online, but some of the stories that I'm seeing and talking to other people saying about all the equipment failures and a lot of equipment breaking down. My question is, when did the Department of Transportation decide to test all this equipment? Did they wait until the very last minute to take all this stuff out and give it a test to see if it was going to work, or was it operational? Did they go in and start doing this stuff back in September and October? Because if they waited till the very last minute and then they figured out, a lot of our equipment is not up to par, well, then someone in the Department of Education heads needs to roll.
Yeah, no, my understanding is regular winter staff back in and machine calibration and maintenance began in October, is what I'm told.
Well, I mean, that sounds kind of fishy to me. If they're deeming all operations were deemed suitable, then after the first snowstorm, you're seeing reports of a lot of equipment being pulled from the road because of mechanical breakdowns. And don't get me wrong, I know mechanical breakdown happens, but to me, it's quite ironic that after the first snowstorm, we see a big majority of the equipment being shoved in the shop to get fixed. I mean, to me, the proper maintenance jobs wasn't done prior to the first big snowstorm.
Fair enough. I can only go by what's reported. If we hear from people on the ground, we'll be happy to talk about that as well. Trent, appreciate your time. Have a nice weekend.
Everybody, take care.
You too. Bye-bye. All right, final thoughts go to line one. Ian, you're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. How are you today?
Okay, how about you?
Oh, not too bad. Driving across the island. I want to talk quickly about the fixed link connecting the Northern Peninsula to the Labrador. One thing that a lot of people seem to be forgetting is that this will open up the Northern Peninsula to a lot of further economic growth, including things like mining. The Great Northern Port has been stalled for the longest kind of time. It was going to be done in Camillier, just outside St. Anthony. And that port in and of itself would have provided for a lot of economic growth for the region, which includes bringing people home, population growth, that kind of thing. Opening up this fixed link to the Labrador would allow a lot of this heavy mining equipment that we need to come here, because you can't imagine what it would be like trying to get heavy equipment through the Bombay Hills, for example, especially now in the wintertime. That's just my thoughts on it. I don't know what you think.
Well, if there was the anticipated increase in traffic flow, of course that would be excellent for the region, for people in Labrador, for people on the Great Northern Peninsula, the Southwest Coast. But if that volume actually came to be, I mean, having driven the Great Northern Peninsula, the highway upgrade required in that part of the province would be extensive.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, the highways in this region are sketchy at best, especially in the wintertime. But the economic growth that could be presented would be immense. I mean, there's everything from gold to diamonds to copper, rare earth minerals. They've been prospecting up this way for 40-plus years. They know what's in the ground. They know where it is. It's just a matter of them opening things up.
And the power to fuel it. Ian, simply because of the time on the clock, we've run out of it for this morning, but you're always welcome to pick this conversation up another day. How's that?
Sounds good. You have a great day and a Merry Christmas.
The very same to you, Ian. Thank you. There we go. All right, good show today. Big thanks to all hands. We will indeed pick up this conversation again on Monday morning, right here on VOCM and Big Land FM's Open Line. On behalf of the producer, David Williams, I'm your host, Paddy Daly. Have yourself a safe, fun, happy weekend. Talk Monday. Bye-bye.